Saxon's Hydrosphere. I'm Saxon and I love music and I love movies, and with this channel I wanted to create a space where both music and movie lovers can kind of coexist. So with that in mind today, I'd like you to join me as I talk about The Northman.
I will avenge you, Father.
I will avenge you, Father.
I will save you, Mother.
I will save you, Mother.
I will kill you, Philip.
The Northman was directed by Robert Eggers, making this his third feature-length film, and it stars Alexander Skarsgard, Anya Taylor Joy, Claes Bang, Ethan Hawke, Nicole Kidman, Willem Dafoe and Björk. So there's some big names in there, and right off the bat in relation to that, this is clearly Robert Eggers' biggest movie, not only in the scope of the cast but the production as a whole. I'd also like to say that I think The Northman is probably his most accessible film and would likely appeal to a much wider mainstream audience than perhaps The Lighthouse or The Witch would have. Now that's not to say that this film is mainstream or by the books Hollywood or anything like that. It's still very much an Eggers movie with his distinct fingerprint and directing style all over the film. Everything you would have come to expect from Eggers is in here, but it's kind of amped up to a bigger, more accessible story. So my first impression on leaving the theatre was I felt that the story on a surface level was something that we've seen many times before, but the following morning I did a little research and I discovered that the film was based on not a true story but a real Viking myth about Prince Hamlet, and was actually what inspired Shakespeare to write Hamlet, which in turn inspired countless other stories of this nature. So that would explain why it felt familiar to me, and with this realization in mind I kind of had a whole new perception on the film. As well, on that note, I'd like to say that if you're going into this film expecting this grand, large-scale, epic action movie about Vikings, then you might be a little bit disappointed, because it's not really as such a film about Vikings and their conquering of countries and everything like that. It's very much centered around just one Norse prince growing up to seeking revenge for the death of his father. So a quick little complaint first, not really about the movie as such, but we went to see this at the Odeon instead of the View this time, just due to screening times. And the seats were so uncomfortable, which just put a downer on my entire viewing experience. You know, this is a film that takes a lot of time to set up scenes and establish shots and really hone in on character emotions and everything. And the last thing you want to be in a movie like that is uncomfortable. And due to that, my initial opinion on the film wasn't overly great, because my discomfort in the seats took me out of the film occasionally during these slower building scenes. So again, it's nothing really to do with this film in particular, but when you go and see it, make sure you go to a theatre that you're going to be comfortable in to really immerse yourself into the atmosphere and the scenes and everything like that. Yeah, if you're in the UK, just don't go to the Odeon, go to the View. Obviously, I'm not sponsored by the View and I'm not trying to sell them to you or anything, but I've found that they're the most comfortable cinema in the UK, so go there for this one. That being said though, once I left the cinema and the film really had time to sink into my brain over that night and the following morning, I have to say that this film was incredible and I can't wait to be able to see it again. Like I said in the beginning, Robert Eggers' vision is bleeding through every single frame, and the cinematography and shot composition is just breathtaking. From the way the environments are established, the camera movements, the imagery behind the dream sequences and the mystical visions, the use of the musical score, and that final scene at the gates of hell. Holy shit. Everything has been so carefully crafted and looked after, and I really believe that Eggers has a large potential of becoming a director of legendary status in the years to come. Something else I feel the indigestion. Something else I feel the movie did really well was the handling of the time period. It really didn't shy away from just how awful the living conditions were, and life in general really, around this time. And it didn't over-glamorize Viking culture, which I liked. And while we see how vicious and brutal they were, we also see that there was a lot more to the culture than what we might have seen in other iterations of the Vikings in this time period. Onto the actors now, and I really didn't recognize Alexander Skarsgård in this role. He truly embodied this character all the way through, and he was really compelling and incredibly terrifying. You know, at no point did I see an actor pretending to be a Viking. His portrayal felt so real and was a massive factor in the quality of this film. The way he carried himself as this absolute brute of a man out for blood whenever he was fighting was astonishing, and has you feeling really frightened and quite tense in a lot of the scenes. I remember one scene in particular actually giving me chills when he finally reveals his identity to one major character. if you've seen the film, you'll know what I'm talking about. But yeah, Alexander Skarsgård, man, what a performance. And then all the supporting cast did a really great job as well. Anya Taylor Joy perhaps had the biggest supporting role, and I thought she was excellent with what she was given. I think I do prefer her performance in The Witch just a little bit better, and I think that maybe she could have been given a little bit more to do in this one, but still, everything that she did was great. And Nicole Kidman as well was also really good with what she was given. She only really had one major scene, and again, if you've seen it, you'll know what I'm talking about. But I thought what it did for the story as a whole and Amleth's development was really great. And similarly, what Ethan Hawke did with his very short screen time was also really well done. You really got a sense of how much of an impact he had on his son and his people, and how powerful of a figure he was in just the first few scenes. I do wish we got a little bit more from Willem Dafoe though. He was only really in one scene. You can never have too much Willem Dafoe. This review was a little bit hard for me because it's difficult to talk about more aspects of the film without spoiling some of the plot or some of the story beats, especially having only seen it once as of yet. But what I will say is that it's definitely a film worth going to see, especially if you enjoy these kind of coming of age revenge stories and you enjoy this kind of highly stylized visual storytelling. Films like this are few and far between these days, and as much as I enjoy like the Marvel blockbusters and stuff, The Northman is a great breath of fresh air, and I'd really love to see films like this get the audience and recognition that's deserved, because this is a truly fantastic film. If you've still not seen The Witch or The Lighthouse yet, I highly recommend you watching them. The Witch being this sort of supernatural horror film, and I'm not usually a fan of horror films, but I really loved The Witch. It's hard to describe The Lighthouse, and I feel like it won't be to everyone's tastes. It's definitely a Marmite type of film, but yeah, just go watch it. I think it's great. But I definitely think The Northman is maybe his best film so far. That's it from me. Thank you for watching this review. Let me know what you thought of The Northman down below in the comments. And I'm going to leave you with my song of the day now, and for today it's kind of tied into this. I saw a comment on the internet a few days ago. I can't remember where or who said it, so unfortunately I can't credit them here. But I saw this comment, and this person thought that Robert Eggers would be able to make a really great movie about the Odyssey, the ancient Greek poem about the king of Ithaca, Odysseus, and his journey back home from the Trojan War. You know, he spent 10 years in Troy, and then it was a 10-year journey getting home, and he saw all sorts of perils on his journey back, and all of his men died. And when he gets home, he finds that there's somebody else trying to marry his wife, and it's just this whole massive story. And I agree that Robert Eggers would make a great movie about this. But also, one of my favourite bands, Symphony X, did a large song about this. It's a 24-minute song. I'm actually, this wasn't planned, it was just convenient the way I put it on, but I'm wearing the t-shirt for that album and that song. So that's going to be my song of the day. It's an incredible piece of music, and I do think that Robert Eggers would make a great movie about this poem. Yeah, see, it's all connected in my brain. So I'm going to leave a link to that song down below, and I'd love for you to check it out. That's everything for today. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you in the next one.